But first tonight, after almost 200 years, the Democrats were a political party with conventional political goals. That's no longer true. The Democratic Party is now a religious cult, with all that implies. Dissent has been banned. Anyone who questions the party's leftward fringe is denounced as a racist heretic. The party has descended into a purity spiral, and nobody is safe, not even the party's own leaders. Nancy Pelosi, for example, she's the most left-wing Speaker of the House in the history of the United States. She's been a fire-breathing liberal for longer than, I don't know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been alive. But none of that has been enough to save her. Ocasio-Cortez and a tiny group of House freshmen demand explicit socialism in this country right now. They want to open the borders, empty the prisons, and take over the entire U.S. economy in the name of fighting climate change. Now, Pelosi may agree with these goals, but she has contempt for their total ignorance of how laws are made, their ignorance of the democratic system itself. And Pelosi has expressed that contempt repeatedly in public, including here.
She likes to minimize the conflicts within her caucus between the moderates and the progressives. You have these wings, AOC and her group on one side.
That's like 5 people.
So for saying things like that, Pelosi tonight is facing a revolt from within the Democratic Party. She's being denounced. Guess what they're calling her? You know, a racist. Here's Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib explaining that Pelosi is oppressing people of color.
More people like us, people of color, have been missing in the chamber because most of us, and Ayanna Pressley says it more beautifully, people that are closest to the pain need to be at the table making these decisions. Guess what? We know what it feels like to be dehumanized. We know what it feels like to be brown and black in this country.
What would you say to Nancy Pelosi? What would you say directly to Nancy Pelosi?
Uplift the women, especially the women of color within your caucus that are out there, because I'll tell you, more people like us, more people like me that come out to vote, we win. All of us win.
Give us power because of our skin color. That's the argument Tlaib is making. Many make that argument. Ocasio-Cortez made the very same case during her Democratic primary campaign last year. By definition, it is a racist pitch. It's every bit as repugnant as a white candidate making the same appeal. And many Democrats did make that appeal, that racial appeal, under Jim Crow. Vote for me because of my race. It's disgusting. But it's everywhere now, and Democrats applaud it. Yesterday, for example, former Obama spokesman Brian Fallon tweeted that Ocasio-Cortez and her faction provides, quote, the vision and moral center of today's Democratic Party. That's a view that is widely shared and is bad news for people like Joe Biden. Like Pelosi, Biden has dedicated his entire life to the Democratic Party. As Pelosi has, Biden has dutifully moved left with the party over the years and hasn't complained about it. He's currently running, for example, on free health care for illegal aliens. But none of it has been enough. People like Joe Biden are the past in the Democratic Party, and like so many others, he's being denounced, wait for it, as a racist. It's over for Joe Biden, a bitter end to what might have been a decent political career. Only he seems to be unaware of that. On Saturday, Biden groveled one last time in a doomed effort to save himself. Watch.
Was I wrong a few weeks ago? Somehow give the impression to people that I was praising those men who I successfully opposed time and again? Yes, I was. I regret it. And I'm sorry for any of the pain or misconception I may have caused.
That's why I chose here in South Carolina and chose an audience that, in fact, would be the most likely to have been offended by anything that was said.
But it's pointless. It's spitting in the wind. In the Democratic Party, remorse is a sign of weakness, and the weak are eaten. Shortly after Biden spoke those words, Michelle Obama was asked her view of Joe Biden. Now, a decent person might have said a kind word about her old friend Joe. He was the man, after all, who helped make her husband president and served under him for 8 years. That's not what Michelle Obama did. Watch.
What, if anything, would you like to say about the Kamala Biden dust-up? He apologized today. You've been following that. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do not.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Moving on. I've been
doing this rodeo far too long.
Yeah, moving on.
No comments.
Moving on. No comment. Joe Biden, not worth defending. He's over, just like Thomas Jefferson and Betsy Ross and all kinds of other people who aren't absolutely aligned with the modern woke left. The Democratic Party demands absolute perfect fidelity at all times. Anyone who fails to measure up is finished forever. Now, that attitude is an effective way to terrify weak people and keep public figures in line. But the question electorally is, will it work on the country? Normal Americans know they're not racist. They don't think their neighbors and friends are racist either. They don't care about that. They care about their jobs, their safety, their families, their country. For years, they've watched in despair as both major parties drifted away from those concerns. They took a chance electing Donald Trump because he seemed willing to put the basics first. Will they re-elect him, is the question. Will Democrats continue to act like this? Absolutely they will.